I made and released an album every single month for a year, and this is what I learned. So over the years of learning music production, I've also been learning to play music and write songs, and I had recorded a lot of music, but I never released any of it. I was always concerned that the quality wasn't good enough. I didn't understand the music distribution process, so I used that as an excuse, or I couldn't decide on like an artist name to release it under, so I just sat on all this music. In 2020, I started making music with the goal of releasing it, and I spent a lot of time trying to find an artist name, and I finally settled on one, and I released my first album in January 2021. It felt really good to finally release music. After all these years of making music and learning, I'm like, I did it. I made music. I released it. It's out there in the world. Whoa, cool. Then I had this thought. I want to do another album. I want to do it again. So here's what I learned from challenging myself to create and release an album every single month for a year. Commitments can be scary, but they push us out of our comfort zones. Honestly, probably the hardest part of this whole project was just committing to do it. I generally avoid commitments if I can. I like to be spontaneous and have freedom. I like to have an open schedule. Like if someone asks me, are you available in 2 weeks on this particular day at this time? I have a very difficult time committing to that because who knows what could happen in 2 weeks? Like there might be something better that comes up, especially when they're commitments that are months in advance. It's like, well, what if I want to go travel or go on like a hiking, backpacking, climbing trip somewhere, and now I have this commitment so I can't do it. Commitments are hard, but I'm learning that they are good for us too. Because the thing is, without commitments, we can quit whenever we want. There's nothing keeping us on track to accomplish something. In one sense, they're very essential to getting things done and very essential for projects to be completed. Once we've committed ourselves to something, we will put in the work until it's done. And it feels really good to see a commitment through to completion. Like knowing that I set out to do this thing, or I said I would do this thing, and I did it. That feels really good. Accountability works. After I decided I was going to do this, I announced it on Instagram. I told my friends, I told everyone that I was doing this. Everyone's asking me, oh, how's your project going? How's the album? And so I had to be accountable to all these people. That ensured that I did not back down, that I did not quit, because I wanted to prove to everyone that I can keep my word and that when I set out to do something, I'm going to do it. If I didn't tell anyone I was doing this challenge, I could quit at any point and there wouldn't be anyone there to be like, hey, you said you're going to do this, you can do it. And I think we need those people. We need people to encourage us and remind us that we got this and we can do what we set out to do. Consistency is everything. There's no way I would have been able to complete a project as ambitious as this without just showing up and putting in a little bit of time every day. It not only keeps you on track, but breaking down a big project into bite-sized manageable parts makes it so much easier to complete instead of trying to do all of it at once or like giving yourself just a couple days to complete a massive amount of work. It's overwhelming. But when you just put in a little bit of time every single day, you can do anything. There's a quote from Israel Moore Ivor that goes, do it again and again. Consistency makes the raindrops to create holes in the rocks. Whatever is difficult can be done easily with regular attendance, attention, and action. This is such perfect imagery of consistency. Those raindrops, a little droplet of water. Over many years, it can erode this super strong rock and be a powerful force. So show up every day and eventually progress catches up to you and you can accomplish pretty much anything. Trust your intuition. We second guess ourselves a lot, and especially with making music, there's so many choices that we're like, oh, I don't know if I actually like this or this lyric or this sound, and it can prevent us from actually finishing songs. But when you're under a time crunch, there's no time to second guess yourself. So I learned to trust my intuition and go with what felt right or go with my first initial idea or thought and just send it. Like how many times in life do we say, oh, I knew I should have done that. Oh, I knew I should have said that. Or, oh, I knew I should have. Every time you say that, you're second guessing yourself. So when we follow our intuition and listen to it right away, we don't have to say, oh man, I wish I should have, or I knew I should have. Because most of the time, your intuition is spot on. iPhone photos make the perfect album art. I think sometimes we can get a little ambitious with our album art. Like we want this crazy composited image with all these things happening, but sometimes the simplicity of just a photo from your phone, it just works. They're little personal snippets of our lives and they're very expressive and they communicate so much. And everyone has a phone and probably lots of photos on it. So there's plenty of material to work with, a lot of photos to choose from, or you can go out and take some new photos. Plus, you don't need a nice phone. A lot of my cover art was shot on an iPhone 7, which came out in 2016. The thing about cover art is most of the time you see it as this little tiny image anyway, so it doesn't have to be crazy high resolution or anything. Plus on Spotify, you can replace the album art with a canvas animation or video anyway, so album art isn't as important anymore. When I look at these album art covers, it takes me back to the place where that photo was taken and the memory, and there's just something really special about it. Utilize shortcuts. Learn the keyboard shortcuts for your DAW. Even just the shortcut to create a new track or to group a track or to rename a track. All those are things that you're using all the time, and it'll save you a lot of time to learn the shortcuts. Also, the favorites tab in Ableton under collections is your friend. Having quick access to VSTs and samples is super nice, especially if you use them in every single track. Work on multiple tracks simultaneously. So instead of spending all your time working on one track until it's done, work on this track a little bit, then this one a little bit, and this one, and this one, and just keep doing that over and over till you put in a little bit of work on each of them until they're all done. And this prevents getting burnt out of a particular song. You've been working on it for so long, you just want to finish it, but you've listened to it so many times that you don't even like it anymore, and you just having that break in between sessions of working on them, you have new ideas and you want to try new things, and so you get like fresh ears every time you come back to these songs. I found this to be the most productive way to make music. Samples provide lots of inspiration. A lot of times I would just throw in a random sample, a random sound, a random texture, and you get all kinds of ideas of where to go from there. Or take a little snippet of something and then chop it up and make a weird rhythm out of it, or take like a vocal sound and start playing the MIDI notes of it. And there's so many things you can do with samples, and that's why I think samples are a better investment than plugins. And honestly, stock plugins give you everything you need on the audio production side of things. So having samples for the creative side of things just helps a lot. And you can build your own sample library. You can record samples just with your phone, or if you have an audio recorder, and go out and you can record anything. Or even in the studio, you can just hook up your mic to your interface and bring like pots and pans. And also be on the lookout for free sample packs. There's a lot of them out there and a lot of good stuff. Or websites like freesound.org where you can download all kinds of samples that people upload. And I have a free sample pack too that you can download in the description. Leave your phone in another room while making music. You will be at least 10 times more productive. There's something called flow state when we get so immersed in our work that it almost becomes effortless. We kind of lose track of time, and that is only accomplished when we are distraction free. If we have our phone right there, that immediately takes us out of flow state when we get that notification, that message, or whatever that is. So just put that phone in another room. And a lot of times the notifications you get on your phone anyway are like, someone commented on this, or like, they don't matter, they're not urgent. You don't need that. Even just having your phone right next to you, even if it's silenced or even if it's on airplane mode, is a distraction, because we'll be tempted to just pick it up or look at it. Just put it in another room. It'll be there, it'll be safe. They'll be waiting for you when you're ready. I honestly don't think I would have been able to make these 12 albums in a year if I had my phone right there the entire time. Always save random little music sketches and ideas. You never know what kind of inspiration they can bring later on. So the year before I did this project, almost every day I would sketch some music idea, even if it was just sitting down for 5-10 minutes and just recording something, even if it's just like a really basic melody or just a really basic beat, I would do that. And so I had this backlog of tons of little sketches, little ideas, and that helped so much in making all these albums. So some days I would sit down to work on these albums and I'd be like, I don't know, I don't have any ideas. But then I'd be like, oh, I'll just start looking through these old sketches, and I would play through and I'd find one and be like, ooh, I forgot about this one. I hear all these new things now. Whenever you get some little idea, record it. Even if it's just on your phone, like record it and save it, because those are valuable. It's kind of like the pre-production I did for an entire year leading up to this helped the production to go a lot smoother. Deadlines work. There's that old adage that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion, and it's really true. If you don't have a deadline on a project, you're gonna just keep pushing it off until one day you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna finish this. You have to decide at some point, I'm going to finish this. Otherwise it never gets done. Like back when I was in college, I had an assignment due at midnight. It's 11:59 and I submit that assignment, and it turned out okay. But that work expanded to fill all that time that was allotted to it. So if you give yourself a deadline, it ensures that you actually complete something in a timely manner. Otherwise, it might never get finished. In conclusion, am I glad I did this challenge? Yes. It was an absolutely incredible experience and worthwhile. Would I do it again? Probably not. 12 albums a year is kind of an excessive amount of music, and there's only so much you can do with the time crunch. So you kind of miss out on some opportunities to develop a song and some of the intricacies that you could add to it. I understand why many artists take several years to create an album, because there's so much that goes into crafting and honing these songs to make them what they are. I learned that the more you make music, the easier it is to make more music. When you get into that flow of going through that creative process of beginning a song and seeing it through to completion, all of a sudden it becomes easier to do that again and again, and all of a sudden you're not stuck with all these half-finished songs. You actually are finishing songs. There's a lot of value in just making music consistently. You learn so much. There's no better way to get better at making music, at composing music, at music production, than to just do it. And it doesn't take a lot of time. Even just 15-30 minutes a day, you can learn so much. It's all about just showing up and doing the work. Looking back at all these albums, it's kind of nostalgic, just thinking about, you know, each month and all the changing seasons and all the different songs and just what they represent. And it's just crazy to think about this journey in this year. And yeah, I'm really thankful to be able to do this, and I'm really happy that I stuck with it and I didn't give up. You know, sometimes we give ourselves these creative projects and we just want to give up, like they're too hard, but I'm telling you, it's so worth it just to keep going, push through on that creative projects that you're working on, like, get it done. Because the cool thing is, when you finish a project, all of a sudden you're free to like think of something, the next thing. Like while you're working on that project, you're like, oh man, I have no idea what I'm gonna do next. But then when you finish it, all of a sudden you get this like vision of, oh, maybe this is what's next. It feels really good to finish something. I don't know what feels better, to start something new, like that excitement of like, oh, we're starting something new, or to finish something, like that relief and that, we did it. Like, which feels better? I don't know. I honestly don't know. They both are pretty amazing. I appreciate everyone who followed along on this journey, and I'm looking forward to making lots more music. I wish you the best in your musical journey, wherever it takes you. And remember to create every day.